Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into what I honestly think is one of the most cinematic and, well, deeply tragic true stories in history. We're talking about the Philippine Revolution's most crucial, yet somehow completely forgotten financiers. These aren't the names you usually hear about, but trust me, without them, the entire course of the nation's history would have looked vastly different.
Okay, let's kick things off by challenging a basic assumption. We all know who fought the battles, right? We know who drafted the declarations. But seriously, ask yourself, how does a starving, highly secretive underground society actually pay for a revolution? Where on earth do they get the money for the propaganda that recruits the soldiers? The answer is just as surprising as it is inspiring.
Take a look at this. It brilliantly shows the stakes we're talking about. Practically overnight, the revolutionary society known as the Katipunan went from a tiny, isolated group of just 300 members struggling in Manila to a 30,000-strong national army. That's a massive, mind-blowing explosion in membership. It gave them the critical mass needed to actually launch a war for independence. But here's the kicker. None of this growth would have happened without two extremely unlikely seafarers.
Section 1. The Forgotten Revolutionary Heroes. To really wrap our heads around this massive leap in numbers, we've got to rewind a bit and look at the men who made it all possible.
You see, while history books are always highlighting iconic generals like Andres Bonifacio, Emilio Aguinaldo, and Antonio Luna, they almost entirely gloss over the two working-class men who actually bought them their voice, Candido Iban and Francisco del Castillo. These two are the true unsung architects of the movement. They weren't politicians, they definitely weren't from the elite, they were just regular, working-class guys whose immense financial sacrifice literally bought the voice of the revolution.
Section 2, a pearl diver's fortune. Now, what's really incredible here is how far removed our heroes were from the political turmoil of Manila. Their story actually kicks off out on the open ocean.
Candido Iban was born into a humble family in Malinao, Aklan, and Francisco del Castillo originally hailed from Bantayan, Cebu. So they came from entirely different provinces in the Visayas. But fate is funny, right? It brought these two adventurous guys together thousands of kilometers away. Looking for better wages than what they could find back in the Philippines, they became overseas workers and ended up crossing paths in, of all places, Australia.
And they certainly weren't sitting in comfortable offices. In the early 1890s, they were working as pearl and shell divers off the coast of northern Australia. This was, without a doubt, one of the most dangerous jobs on the planet. They were hardened survivors long before any war broke out. Every single day, they faced visceral terrors. We're talking shark attacks, the mysterious and agonizing decompression illness, the constant threat of drowning in crazy ocean currents and tropical diseases. They risked their lives daily just to scrape by and earn a living wage.
But then, out of nowhere, an incredible stroke of luck hits. While in Australia, they bought a Spanish lottery ticket, and against all odds, they actually won. They took home a prize of about 1,000 pesos. Now, to put that into perspective, in the 1890s, that was an absolute life-changing fortune. It was a staggering amount of money. Their original plan was pretty straightforward. Take this massive windfall, sail back to the Philippines, and buy up some agricultural land to secure their family's futures. Sounds like the dream, right?
Well, let's look at Section 3, the press that sparked war. Because everything changes when their new wealth collides with the desperate, underfunded revolution.
In 1895, they sailed back to Manila, just waiting for a ship to take them home to the Visayas. But while hanging around in Tondo, they had a fateful run-in with Procopio Bonifacio, the younger brother of the Katipunan leader Andres Bonifacio. Procopio brought them into the fold of this highly secretive society. The moment they heard the Katipunan's goals to wake up Filipino nationalism and expose Spanish abuses, they didn't even hesitate. They took the oath right then and there. In a heartbeat, they bravely ditched all those plans for a comfortable, wealthy life.
And here is the absolutely crucial turning point. The Katipunan had a powerful vision, but they were broke. No money, barely any weapons, and literally no way to mass-produce propaganda. So Iban and Del Castillo took 400 pesos of their hard-earned deep-sea lottery winnings and sacrificed it to buy a second-hand, hand-operated printing press from a shop called Bazar del Cisne. They handed it right over to the struggling society, totally unconditionally.
That single monumental donation births the Kalayaan, which translates to freedom. It became the official newspaper of the Katipunan. And ma'am, it was a masterful piece of propaganda. It was packed with patriotic essays and fiery calls for independence. And to keep the secret society safe, they pulled off this brilliant deception. The newspaper falsely claimed it was published in Yokohama, Japan, and even used fake names for the editors. It completely threw the Spanish authorities off their scent. And as we saw earlier, it was this exact newspaper that caused membership to skyrocket into the tens of thousands.
Moving on to Section 4, expanding their revolution. Recognizing their immense loyalty, their financial sacrifice, and their sheer leadership capability, Andres Bonifacio gave Iban and del Castillo a massive new responsibility.
Up until this point, the Katipunan was pretty much just centered in Luzon. But Bonifacio commissioned our two heroes to head back to Panay and establish the very first Katipunan chapter in the Visayas. Setting up their base in Aba's hometown in Aklan, they got right to work. They recruited farmers, fishermen, craftsmen, and local leaders. Basically, they were transforming the revolution from a localized uprising in Manila into a fully coordinated nationwide war. Francisco del Castillo even stepped up as the general of the revolutionary forces down there, organizing military drills and gathering intelligence.
Section 5. Betrayal and the 19 Martyrs. But just as they were quietly amassing weapons and recruiting hundreds of new members in Aklan, the pacing of our story takes a sudden, incredibly tragic turn.
You see, a local Spanish friar, Fray Francisco Iturralde, started noticing their secret gatherings and got suspicious. But the ultimate, devastating blow happened when a local Filipino informant actually discovered the secret society and betrayed the Aklan Katipunan to the Spanish authorities. This betrayal triggered an absolutely massive crackdown, essentially dooming the society in Aklan before they even had the chance to fully arm themselves for the fight.
This timeline lays out their rapid, heartbreaking end. In early 1897, the betrayal strikes. Knowing they were compromised, General Francisco del Castillo decided to take action. On March 17th, he personally led his men, riding a white horse straight toward the town's residents, hoping to draw out the authorities. Tragically, he was shot and killed instantly in a premature cavalry charge. Shortly after, Candido Iban was captured. The Spanish actually offered him amnesty if he just renounced the Katipunan, but he steadfastly refused. On March 23, 1897, Candido Iban and 18 other fierce patriots were executed by firing squad. Today, they are immortalized and remembered as the 19 Martyrs of Aklan.
Section 6. Legacy of Unsung Architects. Despite their deeply tragic deaths in early 1897, well before the revolution even reached its later stages, the momentum they had sparked was already completely unstoppable.
This quote perfectly sums up their enduring legacy. It reminds us that history isn't just made by the people firing the rifles. It's made by the people who buy the printing presses. Iban and del Castillo were working-class pearl divers who struck gold with a lottery win, but instead of buying a life of ease and luxury, they bought a voice for their country. They gave up their fortune, and ultimately their lives, for a cause so much bigger than themselves.
As we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with this thought to reflect on. History isn't just shaped by the famous generals or the prominent politicians we read about in our textbooks. It's so often shaped by regular people who leverage exactly what they have in extraordinary ways. If two seafarers could use a random lottery win to literally spark a nationwide revolution, what unexpected resources or skills do you have that could spark a revolution in your own world? Thank you so much for exploring this fascinating piece of history with me. Keep learning and keep looking for those unsung stories.